Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's reading assembly. It's extra exciting to be doing this week's assembly for you because this week is, of course, World Book Day. So it's brilliant to be able to kickstart that week with our reading assembly and give a bit of a build up to our World Book Day activities, which are taking place on Thursday. And I know Mrs. Cook has worked really hard to prepare some really exciting activities and events that are taking place across the whole school on Thursday for you to all enjoy and get involved in. And I know your teachers have been getting some extra preparations ready for activities in the classrooms as well as their own costumes that they're going to be wearing. So do ask them all about that, and I'm sure they've got some fantastic surprises ready for you. I hope you've been getting your own costumes ready, or if you're going to wear your pajamas instead, getting them ironed and pressed and ready to wear on Thursday. So you look absolutely fantastic, as I'm sure you all will during World Book Day. So that's on Thursday. But for now, we've got our reading assembly. So what I'm going to do today is just share with you some books that I love and I've always loved, and share with you what I like about them, and talk a little bit about the authors. And then I'm going to give you an extract from one of those as well. I'm going to actually talk about two different authors today. One is my own personal favourite, which is actually officially the best author in the world ever. That's actually a fact. And then I'm going to talk about a really great author that I think is nice for school age children, so particularly Key Stage 2 age children, and share him with you as well. So let's start with my personal favourite, and that's actually the author of a very famous trilogy. So, quick question number one before I introduce my author to you. Can teachers pause at the end of this question? Can someone tell me, please, what is a trilogy? Okay, hopefully you paused there for me and someone answered that brilliantly. And a trilogy is a set of three books. So a lot of stories are told across more than one book, and you get sort of sequels to a story. And when you get three books all together, that is called a trilogy. So my favourite trilogy of all time, my favourite set of books of all time, is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's really a fantastic story by an author called J.R.R. Tolkien. Now, Tolkien wrote a fantastic set of stories about a made-up fantasy world, which is just really exciting, full of all sorts of fantasy creatures that he made up: dwarves and orcs and elves and wizards, all battling together with humans in there as well, and all sorts of fantastic events. And these characters, the hobbits in particular, go off on a real adventure, battling their way through dangerous lands to go on a very important mission to save the world. And they're just great stories about hope and about perseverance against hardship, and loyalty towards friends, and just keeping going together and looking after each other, and keep fighting for the right thing against all the troubles around you. So it's a really great story. It starts with the Fellowship of the Ring, which is a really nice introduction to it. Then it gets really quite exciting in the Two Towers, and then it follows that up at the end with a really fantastic ending, the Return of the King. So that's the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now that's probably a little bit advanced reading for a lot of you. I think year sixes could have a go at reading those, but for some of the younger years, there's a nice little starter book that Tolkien also wrote called The Hobbit. And that's a really nice, easy one to access. So I think anyone in Key Stage 2 could have a go at reading The Hobbit and could enjoy that one. So although this is possibly a set of books for slightly older children, it is a really, The Hobbit in particular is a really easy one to pick up. And that's a really nice one about a little hobbit who goes off on an adventure to try and steal some gold from a very angry dragon. So that's a really exciting story, and it's really just a lot of fun. And it's a great introduction to the wider Lord of the Rings trilogy as well. So that's Lord of the Rings, that's J.R.R. Tolkien, and absolutely the best author ever, and definitely my favourite. So maybe one day you'll have a look at those, and maybe in the meantime you can have a look at The Hobbit. That's not going to be my focus today. I just wanted to share that as my personal favourite. I must have read those three books I think 3 or 4 times across my lifetime. In fact, it's on my to-do list to read them again this year, because they're just so exciting, and I haven't read them for a few years. So I'm going to be reading them again at some point this year, and they really are fantastic stories, just really gripping and exciting, and just take you on an adventure into a faraway fantasy world where just anything can happen. Very magical as well. So really great stories. Now I'm going to focus on my reader recommendation, or author recommendation rather, for children in Key Stage 2. And this might be an author as well that Key Stage 1 children could still sit down with their parents and enjoy a good read at home, as well, although probably a bit difficult for Key Stage 1 children to be reading on their own, but nice for a storytelling time with family. So one of my other favourite authors from a children's point of view is Michael Morpurgo. Now, Michael Morpurgo has written dozens of books, and he's got loads and loads of different books, and there's all sorts of different themes, although there's two common strands that run through all of Michael Morpurgo's books, and those are a lot of them are set in very important historical settings. So he tends to write about lots of big wars that have happened and other big important things in history. Like I think one of the stories is set aboard the Titanic, and lots of important historical things like that. And then you'll notice a lot of the stories as well have pictures on them of animals, whether it's horses or bulls or cats or dogs or lions or elephants. There's all sorts of exciting animal stories featured in his writing as well. So he tends to write about important historical events, but then with the twist or through the perspective of maybe a young child and their pet, or a family and their favourite animal, or something like that. Or it might be that a child gets lost on a mountain and an animal comes and rescues and looks after them. So there's all sorts of exciting stories told through the perspective of children and animals. And that's a really great way, I think, of just having really exciting stories, often against really dramatic historical backgrounds. So he's written, I've got 3 here that I really like. If I just give you a quick overview of each one. Now, these are all in my classroom. I've got a box set of Michael Morpurgo, which is my own set, on my windowsill at the back of my classroom. And anyone in the school is very welcome to come and borrow those, or borrow one of them rather, if they would like to. So just check with your class teacher and pop down to my classroom sometime if you'd like to. You can come and borrow a Michael Morpurgo book. I know anyone who's been in my class this year or in previous year will have probably read one of them at some point. So I'm going to start with Warhorse, one of his most famous stories. And this one is about a young man, so a sort of teenage boy, who grows up looking after a horse on their farm. And as he gets old enough to join the army, the horse obviously matures as well, and the two of them actually join the army together. So the horse, as an adult horse, becomes a cavalry horse, and the young man joins up and becomes a cavalry officer. And they join the army together and go fighting in World War One. And it's quite a deep book looking at the difficulties and horrors of World War One, but it's all done through the perspective of this boy and his horse and their relationship together. So again, like I say, it's about this relationship between this person and their pet horse. It's a similar one here with Toro Toro, which is about a young boy whose family looks after a bull. Now in Spain, there's a lot of culture around bullfighting and bulls as well. So it's a sort of a Spanish equivalent, if you like, to Warhorse. This one, Toro Toro, is about a boy who looks after a bull, and also the boy grows up. Now this one is set against World War II, in World War II, and again the boy gets separated from his family and goes off on an adventure, trying to basically survive through part of the war as well. So again, it's about a relationship between the boy and a bull, and also trying to survive through a difficult wartime period. So that's a really exciting one, very different cultural aspect to that as well, set in Spain. And then this one really goes from, the other two are quite historical based. This one is really just pure fantasy. It is set in World War II, and it's actually about a boy fleeing from the war in Asia, and he's trying to flee from the Japanese army. And I think he's going through Nepal and the Himalayan mountains. So it's really, that's the background, but that's all that the war comes into it. And then he gets into the mountains and he discovers a tribe of Yetis. And he ends up on his own, because I think he's traveling with his uncle, and something happens to his uncle. I won't give too much away in case you read it. He ends up on his own for a period, and he lives with the Yetis, and the Yetis become a magical people that he lives with. So that's a little bit like Lord of the Rings, and that it's sort of this fantasy story with made-up characters and made-up species of people. So that's a really exciting one to read. He has all sorts of adventures with the Yetis in the mountains. And that's a really nice, not really set in war at all, just a little bit of a wartime background to start the story. And then it goes into the mountains, and we have a whole fantasy story with Yetis. So I really like that one, just for how creative and imaginative it is. So those are 3 of Michael Morpurgo's really exciting stories that I would really recommend to anyone in Key Stage 2 to come and have a look at, especially in year 5 and 6, to really interest you. Now I'm going to read you a little bit of an extract from Toro Toro. I'm going to read you the first chapter, And then you're going to have a think about what you think is going to happen next. So, and then of course, we will discover our readers of the week and who's been impressing their teachers this week with all their fantastic reading. So here we go. I'm going to jump into Toro Toro, and like I say, if you enjoy it, it is in my classroom, so you can come and borrow it. Okay, here we go. I am the proud grandfather of a wonderful grandson. I've been for 8 years now. The two of us are very close. Somehow, we know each other instinctively like twins, in spite of the 60 years between us. We even share the same name. Nowadays, they call me Abuelo, Grandpa. But when I was little, I was always called Antonito, like him. It isn't only by his name that Antonito reminds me of me. Until yesterday, being a grandfather had been a simple joy, all the pleasures of fatherhood and few of the cares and woes. Then yesterday afternoon, up in his bedroom, Antonito asked me a question that had to be answered properly, honestly, and without any circumvention. It was a little enough thing that began it. It happened during the siesta. Antonito was bored. He was just messing around as children do. All he did was kick a football through a window by accident. When his mother came storming out into the garden, Antonito was standing there in his Barcelona shirt, looking as guilty as sin. He hadn't run off. He's not like that. There was no one else around except the cat and me. We were having our afternoon nap under the mimosa tree at the bottom of the garden, well away from the scene of the crime. So Antonito had to be the culprit. He was for it, and there was nothing I could do to help him. Antonito, how many times have I told you? I could see that the chin of his was jutting already, and I knew there'd be tears welling up inside him. I could sense what he was going to say before he even said it. I didn't do it. It wasn't me, honest. And it was all said with such utter conviction, such determined defiance. Asked for an alternative explanation, he shrugged insolently at his mother, pursed his lips, and refused to speak. That one shrug was enough to send his mother into paroxysms of rage. He was a careless, thoughtless, lying little toad, and should be ashamed of himself. Antonio was banished to his bedroom. For some time afterwards, I could hear him crying, and then whimpering quietly in his misery and his shame. I longed to go up and console him, but I had to bide my time till I was sure his mother had gone out. Grandfathers have to be careful in such matters. Before making my way into the house and upstairs. Then I knocked and opened his door. Antonito was sitting on the bed, chin still jutting, until he saw that it was me. "Hello, old fellow," I said, and went to sit down beside him. Neither of us could think what to say, so we said nothing. We often said nothing together. We were silent for some time. Then out of the silence came the question. "Abuelo, when you were little, did you ever do bad things? I mean, really bad? Did you ever tell a lie?" "Plenty," I said. This was quite true, of course, but I should have left it at that. Instead, seeking to empathise, wanting to make him feel better, I went on. "I'm telling you, Antonito, I was a whole lot better at bad things than you are. And as for lying, I was pretty good at that too." He looked up at me with his wide eyes. "Honestly," he said. "Honestly," I replied. "Would I lie to you, Antonito?" He smiled at that and brushed the tear stains from his cheeks. I felt I'd said the right thing. "Are you going to come down now and pick up that glass with me?" I asked. "And then you can make your peace with your mother when she comes back, can't you?" But I could tell that he wasn't listening to me, even as I was speaking. "Abuelo," he said, "when you were little, what was the very worstest thing you ever did?" I hadn't thought he would take it any further. I was on the spot now. I had a mountain of worstest things to choose from, but he'd asked me for the very worstest, and I knew at once what that was. I told no one else about it in near enough 70 years. Not the real story, not all of it. It seemed somehow the moment to tell it. It seemed, too, that if anyone had a right to know, it was my grandson. I felt it was in some ways his birthright, his inheritance. I knew, too, that he expected the truth from me, so I told him the truth, the whole truth. "If I tell you something, Antonito," I said, "it'll have to be our secret. No one else must know, not until you're a father yourself, and then you can tell your own children. That's only as it should be. After all, it's our history I'm talking about, yours and theirs too. Not a word till then. Promise?" "Promise," he said, and I knew he meant it. I could feel his eyes willing me on, so I began. "I haven't always lived here in town in Malaga, but you know that already, don't you? I've told you that before, haven't I? I was born on a farm, and I grew up in the countryside with animals all around me. Over the years, I've told him dozens of tales about my country childhood in Andalusia. He loved to hear all about the animals, but I'd promised him something much more exciting this time, and I could see that he was full of expectation. This is not just another of my animal stories, Antonito. Well, in one sense it is, I suppose, but this is the most important story I could tell you, because this story changed my life forever. I'll begin at the very beginning, shall I? And that is the end of chapter 1. And then Grandpa goes on and tells him all about his own childhood, which involves Pico the bull. It's a really exciting story, like I say, about how he survives the war and the relationship he has with this bull who grows up alongside him. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. So what I want you to do now is pause the video, have a bit of a class discussion, or a bit of a partner talk perhaps, have a think about what do you think Grandpa's big secret might be? What do you think it was that happened to him as a child, and what sort of adventure do you think he might have gone on? I've given you a few clues already, so see if you can pick up on those and share it with your classmates and your partners and your teachers what you think happened there. So pause the video right now and have a bit of a chat. Okay, so you hopefully unpause that and we can carry on, and hopefully you had some interesting thoughts there about what happens in Toro Toro. And if you want to borrow the book, like I've said already, do pop down to my classroom, and I'm happy for people to take that out and read that in their own classrooms. Okay, it is time now, drum roll please, for our exciting readers of the week. Let's find out who have been impressing their teachers this week and who's been doing some fantastic reading at home or at school, of course. Okay, our winners are: in year 1, we have Hadi and Vittorio. In year 2, I hope we're all clapping loudly and cheering and screaming with joy at these fantastic rewards here. So, year 1, Hadi and Vittorio. Year 2, Aisosa and Rayan. Year 3, Mariam and Winter. Keep up that clapping and cheering. Year 3, Mariam and Winter. Year 4, Amaya, Logan and Xander. Year 5, Simajot, Fahil and Shay. And year 6, last but not least, the biggest cheers for year 6, please. Let's have some enthusiasm, year 6. Jacob, Mariam, Sophia, and Aya. So a huge well done to all of you. And keep up all the excellent work with all the reading that you are all doing. So that's all from me this week. But you've got your fantastic World Book Day to look forward to on Thursday. So do get planning your fantastic costumes and outfits. And I know your teachers will be busy with all their activity planning for you as well. So I hope you've enjoyed the assembly today. I hope you've had a good think about Michael Morpurgo and maybe J.R.R. Tolkien as well. And I'll see you around the school. Thanks, everyone. Bye.